welcome to the first installment of FSU Semicast. Why is it a semicast? Well, because for the obvious pun, and because it's not a full anything. This is a half-assed podcast. Anyways, I thought I'd start making these because I am excited for the upcoming college football season, and this week has really gotten my motor running because SEC Media Days is kicked off. Now, I could give two shits about the SEC, but it's the first big Power 5 conference to have their media days, and for a lot of college football fans, especially in the South, this marks the beginning of the college football season in many ways. Before I delve into more of what I'm going to talk about as far as FSU goes, quick background. I've been a fan for now 25 years, which is hard to believe. I was about 9 years old when I first became a fan of Florida State football, which puts me right around 91. It was 1 year before Charlie Ward took over. And looking back so long ago, it's hard to remember the quarterback that started right before Ward, to be quite honest. But I remember it was not him when I first started watching, and then Ward took over, and then the modern FSU, as you know it, has since existed. The 2016 season is 54 days away. 54, which is nothing. That's less than 2 months. And I can't be more excited. Last year, a little review of last year. This time last year, actually, I wasn't expecting much out of Florida State. By that, I mean no college football playoff, no illusions of fucking grandeur in my head about them taking it all. I expected 9-3, 10-2 as a regular season record. They finished 10-2. Those two losses to Clemson and who was the other loss? Georgia Tech. Those were two games where they could have won either one. The Georgia Tech was the ridiculous missed field goal by Aguayo, which was returned, and then the Clemson, the fourth down and one fucking failure. So in a down year, I'll take the 10-2, especially considering how many players they had lost the previous 3 years, 29 alone to the draft, which is a NFL record. But moving into this year is a reason to be excited. My expectations are back up to championship level, as should many FSU fans' feelings and expectations should be. There are, I believe, 18 starters total returning. The entire offense returns, and 7 on defense. First little gloss over the defense. The defense should be outstanding. It was very good last year. Coming off the previous year in 14, a lot of players were playing for contracts. So in 15, it was nice to see them bounce back, play like they're capable of playing, but there's still a large margin for error. There's a large room for them to grow. And this year, with the 7 returning starters, with the depth they've accumulated along the defensive line, I think this defense will, at worst, be top 25, with the potential of being a top 10 defense. Now, who do I expect to star on the defense? Likely suspects. Walker, thank God he returned, got him at defensive end. And then he's flanked on the other side by Josh Sweat, who is entering his sophomore season. Nobody expected much from him last year coming into the season last year until suddenly it was announced that he was able to play, despite the fact that he basically shredded his knee in high school during his senior year. He played well, but you could tell he still wasn't 100%. So now he's had a full year to get healthy, to put on more weight, and to just learn how to be a better defensive end. And then in the middle with Naughty and Christmas, yes, the obvious puns are there. Naughty or nice. Check in your Christmas list. Whatever. I think Naughty is the better of the two. He will anchor the inside of that defensive line. Also, the depth at the defensive line beyond the starters is nice. I'm curious to see how often they actually rotate. But the big bodies are there. The big bodies are definitely there. You have, I think, Arthur Jones is one big name that could emerge. Trying to think of some others right off the top of my head. And as I said, this is a semi-cast. It's not a full go quite yet, just getting started. Let's get off the defensive line. As far as the starting four goes, they can compete with most any D-line in the country. Linebackers, a little thin as far as depth goes, but if the unicorn, a.k.a. Matthew Thomas, can actually play a full season, and this is his contract year, then that'll be huge. To go alongside Roderick Hoskins, those are the two likely linebackers you'll see most often. FSU usually doesn't employ more than two linebackers on the field at once because of all the spread offenses they face. And then moving on to the secondary starters, you'll have Derwin James back for just his sophomore year. I can't believe this kid has one more year. His freshman campaign, he had 91 tackles, a few sacks, a couple forced fumbles. He was just an animal. And it was actually, as the year progressed, you could see him start to grasp the defense. So he went from just being completely raw to actually using his football acumen. And now that he has another year, he's likely to bust out to the national stage. And he's already getting recognized. He's a Thorpe Award finalist just in his sophomore year. True sophomore year, no less. At one of the corner positions, Marquez White is back for his senior year. He's underrated. He did very well last year. He focused on football more than basketball, and once he did that, you could see his athleticism and how good he could be. Nate Andrews will probably be one of the other safeties. Trey Marshall you'll have at the star position. He was missed big time when he went out. He tore his bicep, I believe. But he's back healthy, ready to go. The other corner will likely be either Marcus Lewis, who was a 4-star recruit, I believe, in the 2015 class. He's still fairly young, as well as Tavares McFadden, who was a 5-star. And I just keep rolling in the 5 stars. So I expect the defense to be ferocious. And I like the fact that they're coming off a year which was a little down. So I expect all those guys to be hungry. They don't want to hear about this, oh, you're nothing without Winston. Look what you did. You didn't even go to the playoffs, blah, blah, blah. And then you have a couple guys mixed in there that are in contract years, so to speak, like DeMarcus Walker and Matthew Thomas and Marquez White. So beyond the obvious talent, I think the hunger's there. I know that's really, you can't quantify that, can't really measure that, but I expect this defense to be very, very good. Flipping over to the offensive side of the ball, all 11 starters return, but you really can't start the conversation about their offense without bringing up the quarterback position. Who's it going to be? Incumbent starter and fifth-year senior Sean McGuire? Or will it be one of the young guns in redshirt freshman DeAndre Francois and true freshman Malik Henry? I, along with most FSU fans that follow the team closely, believe that it will indeed be DeAndre Francois. I like McGuire. Let me put a little disclaimer about him. I like him. I like the effort that he exerts every time he's out there. I like that he's fearless in his throws. I like that apparently he's well liked by all the players, and Jimbo Fisher respects him deeply. He could have transferred early on in his Seminole career, but he chose to stick around, so he's been a Seminole through and through. But he's not the guy to lead this team to the playoffs. He's just not. His ceiling is that of a above average college quarterback. As I said, I like the fact that he makes risky throws, but he makes too many of them, and he doesn't make enough other big plays to make up for that. So I like DeAndre Francois because he offers a big playability with his arm as well as his legs. And I like the fact that he has a stronger arm, and that now that he's in his redshirt freshman season, he's had a year to learn the playbook and get to know the offense. And he just offers a bigger upside than McGuire. He just does. The talent is there. You could see it in the spring game. I know it's just a spring game, but he has all the throws in his arsenal. About the only thing he's lacking is maybe some height. He's about 6'2", I think, 6'1", 6'2". That's about all that kept him from being a five-star recruit coming out of high school, to be quite honest. Had he been 6'4", he probably would have gotten that fifth star. So the talent's there. So no offense to Sean McGuire, but Francois needs to be the guy to take over, and I hope he is the guy. Along the offensive line, there were, I believe, 9 players that played offensive line last year with numerous combinations to that line. There was no continuity, no consistency, and there was a lot of inexperience on that offensive line. Roderick Johnson last year was the only lineman that really had any kind of experience, and that was a grand total of about maybe 6 to 10 games worth of starts. So clearly the offensive line was inexperienced. So you come into this year, far more experience. The younger guys are also have another year in the weight room. There is 2016 recruiting class that arrives this fall, or later this summer, I should say, is probably the best recruiting class as far as offensive linemen go that Jimbo's ever had. It is stacked with 4 and 5 stars, depending on the website that you subscribe to. So I expect the O-line to be deeper, more talented because of the incoming recruits, and it to have more cohesion, more chance to work with each other. So overall, it's got to be better. And it doesn't have to be Alabama good, okay? If this line is just solid, last year at best, they were average at best. So if they are above average to good this year, then that's going to pave a way for the man, the myth, the legend in the making, Dalvin fucking Cook. Dalvin Cook, with all due respect to work done, is the best running back Florida State has ever had. And I'm old enough, as I said, I've been a fan of about 25 years now, to have watched work done. And I didn't think I'd ever see a better one. But Cook takes the cake for me. He is an obvious Heisman contender. This is his contract year as a junior. So if he gets a modicum of good blocking in front of him, 2,000 yards is easily within reach. As far as the receivers go, all of them return, but they really need someone outside of the returning group to step up. In the spring game, you had Auden Tate, flash, had a couple touchdowns, had a handful of catches, looked really good out there, and he's kind of a good complement to the other receivers. Or I should say the receivers need to be a good complement to him because he's the guy that you really need to stretch the field. He's about 6'4", 6'5", over 200 pounds, can high point the ball. This is what the offense sorely missed, amongst other things, last year, is that big playmaking receiver. They haven't had one anywhere close since Benjamin left. And not surprising, Benjamin's one of those once in a 5-10 year type of player. But if they can get Tate or even George Campbell, who's another 6'4" type guy with blazing speed, to complement Rudolph, Whitfield, and Bobo Wilson. Love all 3 of those guys. They really try hard. They do. But other than Rudolph, who's about 6'1", none of them are very big at all. And Rudolph needs to show consistency this year. Excuse me, tripping over the old tongue there. He showed flashes last year, but he was a 5-star guy. He's going into his junior year now, his contract year. He really needs to show consistency from week to week. And apparently, at least in the spring workouts and the practices, he's been very consistent. Jimbo's just couldn't say enough good things about him. Tight end, that could be the X factor on offense. They need a good offensive line play. Quarterback play, it can't be much worse than last year. But maybe the X factor, as people like to call it, the X factor. What's the X factor? Ryan Izzo, the tight end. He showed some flashes last year. He definitely has the size. He's not top end speed fast, but he's very quick, can get open in shorter routes. Definitely has the frame, and he's actually a pretty solid blocker. So I'm expecting much better things from this offense this year. And when you couple that with what I expect to be an exceptional defense this season, this next 54 days can't go by any more quickly. I'm just hyped. I really, really am excited, and I believe this could be year one of a 2-3 year window for competing for the college football playoff, the national title. We'll see. That was a little more than I wanted to go into for the first podcast, but I gave you the offense and defense and kind of a general overview. Maybe going forward, I will break down the remaining position battles heading into fall camp, other than the obvious being quarterback, and then get into actual game previews. But until next time, this has been a Florida State Semicast.